taking a fancy, you made Talk Magazine's top beautiful, and you're nodding your head. Are you ashamed of this? You should not be ashamed of this.
No, I'm not. When I got the email, I laughed a bit because I was like, "What?"
That's a great honor. I know several friends who've been on that list, including my vice president herself. So
yeah,
that's very cool. It's very cool.
It was fun filling out the questions. I don't know which ones they included, but I definitely talked about gentrification in mine. So we'll see.
I mean,
yeah, it's fun.
Of the dozen jobs you have, I'm glad one of them got you the notoriety to be in that magazine. So
it is my hat trick, though. I've been in town, the Greenville News, Community Journal, and now Talk. So I'm done here.
And you've been in like lots of programs in the city in general, right? Like you went through Leadership Greenville last year at the chamber and other things. Like, what has Alrinthea not done? So
I don't know. Maybe
she can't answer that question.
I really can't. I have to think about it.
My name is Al Carter, and there's a million things I haven't done, but just you wait. All right. We are bragging on our friend Alrinthea Carter with Alchemy Comedy. This is the Alchemy Comedy Podcast. This is your host, Andrew Van. And each week I bring to you a new episode, whether it be some audio improv, some sketch, or some stand-up. Today is one of those episodes I'm going to have you meet the cast. And today I have not just co-hosts, but two spectacular people who are part of our company that do so much. And they'll explain in a little bit. I do have the person we're bragging about, Alrinthea Carter.
Oh my goodness. Hi.
And hello. Tyler Prescott in the house.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me, Andrew.
I'll let Tyler explain his roles in a second, but I do want to brag on Tyler for being very deceiving, introducing me to the game Among Us recently. There were words that were had and very shattered friendships that night, but it was a lot of fun.
Lots of words that were had and words that were typed.
And I had to figure out what sus meant when people kept typing sus. That's how old I am at 36. So Alchemy just celebrated its 9th anniversary. And we celebrated this year a little different, obviously, because of COVID than we do normally. Normally, we do some kind of big show, a coffee on the ground, invite some past guests, maybe have various people on stage in the company from past, present, students, and so on, just to have a fun variety of things going on. But, well, we didn't this year, but we did do a 9-hour comedy marathon that I still believe is available on YouTube. And it's got a variety of stand-up improv. There's short form, I believe. There's a D&D podcast, and there's long form Armando as well. So I wanted to bring the folks who help put those together and other festivals we do at Alchemy Comedy. So Tyler, I'll bring it over to you first. You helped with this year's comedy marathon. One, I'm very glad you still have your hair because one, you have a very nice lettuce up top. And you were the hell out in that last week or so. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, it was wild. All the way up until even the first hour of trying to get it onto YouTube.
And so what is the Greenville Comedy Marathon, first off? Like, specifically, what is the program?
So traditionally, the Greenville Comedy Marathon is 30 straight hours of comedy that takes place in our comedy theater. It goes all the way from 6 p.m. one day to all the way through the night into the next day, 30 hours straight. This year, meeting in person was not feasible or reasonable to do all of that together. So this year it was 10 hours of just straight comedy over the internet. It's all on YouTube still for you to see. Lots of really great stuff there.
And Greenville base, which is why we call it the Greenville Comedy Marathon. So we have like local stand-ups who aren't even part of our improv troupe, but we just have friends who are part of the community that they just get the exposure, kind of get their bits out and so on, and just have a good time, just to get the information out there. In past, I know we've done marathons, like Tyler was saying, where there will be a team that starts at like midnight and then goes all the way 12 hours straight doing improv. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess during the previous iteration of the comedy festival, we always have 4 uh, Alchemy members that will
That
perform from
volunteer.
midnight to noon. They
They
volunteer.
volunteer.
They
Yeah, I did it
volunteer.
last year.
I
Yeah.
forgot about that. I want to ask you about that.
It's really fun. I mean, I did it. I guess I did like 4 years ago, and you know, at that point, Harrison was like, "Yeah, this seems like something that is fun to do, but only fun to do once." And if, I didn't believe him, but right after, I
Hmm.
was like, "Yeah, I've done it, and I'm good. I will go to shows, but." I don't see the need to perform for 12 hours straight anymore, but I had a blast at the same time. So
Yeah, I
it's
had
a
the same
different challenge.
experience.
Mhm.
I said, no, it would be something I could do more than once. And then I did it and I was like, never again.
What did you advise other people who attempted to do this either before or after you guys? Like I heard, for instance, like obviously, sleep in the night before. I heard that it helps stretches your muscles, right? I think I heard that from Al, right? It helps stretches your improv muscles. So you're not just doing like the same bit, the same voices, the same characters over and over. Like you're really just trying to open new things out.
Yeah, I mean, you are trying probably new formats you've never done before, and that new format could be at 3 a.m.
Hmm.
Or you're playing with people that you probably haven't played before because it's like 4 random people from the company. So, but you get to know each other really well because you're spending 12 hours together. My biggest advice was usually don't go to sleep during the marathon.
Great.
Has
So if
that
you start
happened?
at midnight,
Yes.
yes, and I will call him out. Griffin Pafford
Griffin Pafford.
fell asleep. He was
Like
in my
on stage or
foursome.
like in the chairs in the audience?
It was during like one of our 5 minute breaks, and he like took a nap, and we're like, Griffin, don't take a nap, and he's like, ah. But he was fine because
Hey.
It makes it so much worse.
it does. So you just stay up and don't have too much coffee. Like we would provide coffee for you,
Yeah.
but I think if you're like one of those people like, oh, I have to drink a cup of coffee every hour, that's too much. Like you have to find some sort of a balance.
So can I ask you, like, and you don't have to go into super detail, obviously, for like business reasons, but like, how was this convinced to the owner, Dana, of Coffee Underground to be like, hey, we have this very unique idea. Will you let us have a section of your coffee shop establishment open 24/7? We will watch it. We will volunteer to do our best to make sure nothing happens. But like, how is Harrison that smooth of a negotiator? That's what I want to know.
Maybe, but we have such a strong relationship with Dana
Hmm.
that she's probably like, okay. I mean, we're probably, the first tenants she's had that have gone in and built a tech booth and purchased chairs and, you know,
Remodel
keep
green
up the
room.
theater. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I guess we kind of have some skin in the game. So I think that she's trusting of that. I mean, I think the first couple of years, she had a staff member that stayed all night with us and would play video games. And like the last few times, I think it's been like, all right, so just don't break anything or go in the kitchen or, just go to the bathroom, don't go into the coffee shop. And they sell us their coffee, so it's a win-win.
Like by like gallons? Like, do you guys just have it all night kind of thing? Like, what do you mean they sell you the coffee?
Yeah, we get
Like
like
a
a
big
couple of
carafe.
gallons. Yeah,
Nice.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
So good.
one of the things I really like about it is you really can fall into this groove of doing improv where you make like the same kind of jokes or the same kind of characters, and sometimes you don't even realize that you're doing it. Right? It's just like, I don't know what to do. I'm gonna walk out on stage and I'm gonna play this character I always play, right? Because it's the one thing I know. No one else is doing anything, and it might be a bad move, but you fall into that trap sometimes.
Yeah.
But when you're doing 12 hours in a row with the same people you've been doing it with all night, you bring that same character out 3 times. It's not a callback. It's just you not knowing what to do.
Yeah.
You're going to get called out for that because people have been there with you all night. It's not 2 weeks later or next month when they forgot this character that you play every time.
Right.
So it really does force you to play new characters and to find new parts of yourself to play,
Mhm.
which is really fun. Not just that it's in the middle of the night, but that it's 12 hours in a row.
So you telling me there wasn't one person, there wasn't one improviser that was trying to do like the same bit at the end of every routine? He'd be like, "This is going to be the button of every hour on the hour. Hey, young kids," or something like that. Just every hour for no reason.
I don't know. I feel like every cohort that's done it has always been like, we want to put our own stamp on whatever this is, on this like endurance event. And they kind of jump full into it with like, okay, we want to have 12 very unique shows and do the best that we can. And plus, we also have audience members as well. So
what is the audience like at like those late nights? I have to ask. I've never been to one of these shows. I have not had the cojones, the bravery to do these late night shows, but I've always been so curious. I've heard various things.
I can sign you up for next year if you want.
We're okay. If it was a COVID show, maybe I'll do it from home.
But I think it's a mix of like people that are like, are you just really there all night? And like people just kind of wondering. You know, the year I did it, we had at least one person in the audience for the whole 12 hours. And I think it was the show that was like at 4 or 5 a.m. I don't remember which. And we had just a random dude just wander in, and they're free, obviously. And he heckled us. He was the only person in the thing, and he's like, "What are you guys doing? Like, what is this?" And like, who walks around Greenville at 5 a.m.?
I wonder what's going on. Let me find something fun to do.
Let me go in this basement and see what's happening down there.
Just trying all the doors, see what's unlocked.
Yeah, like that's the thing. Like you would have to actually walk down those stairs and like tug a little bit to be like, "Oh, what's going on?" Like, because you didn't leave like the street sign up to say marathon this way, right? So
I think we do. I think we have like
oh,
a big
did
poster.
you?
Yeah, but I think it's still like you have to like stop and look at it like, oh, this is like going on like right now as we speak.
Because it's not intuitive for you to be like, there's a sign. I bet at 5 o'clock in the morning there's a comedy show happening right now.
And I happen to be awake and dressed
for me.
and walking around. You know, there was a group of people that were having their house fumigated, and so they came in at midnight and stayed till like 3 a.m. And it's like, but why is your house being fumigated at night?
Is it drugs? It's a drug thing, right?
They are the fumigators. So the Greenville Comedy Marathon, yeah, it comes with that 12-hour stint, and then there's like usually other sketch variety from our own players, such as our sketch team in the past, and we've had like the Southern Ladies. Why am I missing the name, Al? You're part of the team.
Southern Ladies of Snatchery.
Thank you.
I'm brand new on the team. I'm a noob on the team.
Oh, really?
What?
Yeah, I joined before the world stopped. So
and then the world stopped, and you were like, guys.
Yeah.
We got plenty of time to write, though.
Yeah. So my team, you probably think about Kismet. That's the team I've been, the all-female team I've been playing with.
I love Kismet. You guys, and Kelly and Winevan and Jess used to be on the team. And Jen. Is the women's only version of The Bachelor improvised on stage. Right?
Yeah.
If you like dry sarcasm, this is your show. Especially when Kelly hosts it. I love Kelly hosting that show. It's just
she loves hosting it. It's her favorite thing.
Yeah, because like to me, like Kelly is the audience, and it's like that straight man of like, why am I here?
Have you all done that show virtually?
We haven't, and I was actually just thinking, like, why haven't we done it? It's a television show. Why have we tried it virtually? So who knows? We may try it.
That would be fun.
Yeah. I think that would work out. It would take time and practice to get kind of a rhythm with the audio overlay, but totally doable. In fact, putting out on this episode now, we demand snatchery. Just saying right now, the people listening to this episode demand snatchery, Al. So
okay, I will give those concerns to the up and ups of the team.
Up and ups. I feel like without any context, just saying we demand snatchery is kind of inappropriate.
It's election year, Tyler. All right, we can use it. It's fine.
That's
All
true.
right, so moving on to the New South Comedy Festival. Is this our 7th one going on or our 6th? I can't.
This will be the 7th annual New South Comedy Festival.
Okay, and did you do last year's as well, Tyler?
Yeah, Al and I worked on it together last year.
So how does that? So when do you guys usually? Well, let's go pre-COVID. I know this year's an exception. We'll get to that in a second, but pre-COVID, when do applications normally kind of open? How long does that process take? What does that process look like?
So by now we would have had a lot more of it figured out. Pre-COVID, applications would have opened in the spring and closed. I think last year applications closed in June or July. Does that sound right, Al?
Yeah, like July. Mm-hmm. And then we started informing people of their acceptance in September. So if around this time we'd be getting ready to go, like it's like the last month before everything kind of kicks off.
Yeah, but this year applications are closing very soon, into the month of September, and we're hoping to have everything wrapped up in the next couple weeks.
So you give almost like 6 months advance notice to just apply, think through it, and then you got that wait time like any other improv festival, and then roughly 2 months before they have to make it down from confirmation to planning to get to Greenville. So for folks listening, you would think that would be enough time for you to make arrangements, but I will advise you got to understand time zones for one. There was one year, it might have been last year, the year before. We had a really nice crew. I mean, there were some younger folks. They weren't a college team, but they were from St. Louis, I think. And whoever was like the troop lead, I guess, was in charge of the manifest, and they were estimating time of arrival 7 o'clock their time, not our time, and forgot that when you go eastbound, you lose an hour, not gain an hour.
Oh no!
So they arrived I think 30 minutes late to the first show that they were supposed to be booked on, and they're just like in there with us, like hanging out, and like they looked so mortified, defeated, of like, how the hell did we do that?
I would be mortified. I feel so bad.
Oh, I felt so bad for them. And I think we actually let them perform, but I think it was like in a jam situation.
Yeah, there was a jam, I think, that same night, luckily, and I think Ben was around, so you guys just were able to squeeze them in. So
yeah, and then they drove home the next day.
Can you imagine driving all that way to not perform and then to just drive back?
Yeah.
I hope that team is still together. I really hope that was not like the camel's back. Like, you're like, that's it. I'm out. Can't do it anymore. Just wasted all the time. So, I performed in the festival a couple times with different various teams, and what I really enjoy too is the workshops provided by Alchemy that are from people from all over, between literally like Brian James O'Connell from LA, folks from LA. You had Jill Bernard from Minnesota. You had people from New York teach like music workshops. I mean, this has been a huge variety. Any favorite memories in the past as far as like kind of coaches and performers we've had that you guys that just really stuck out to you?
I mean, probably for me.
That's a good pause because there's been so many. We can't pick our favorites.
So many.
So
yeah, I need to like list them out because I feel like some people in like their improv bios, they have like, oh, I studied this person. I don't have.
Mine is super long. In my bio, my Alchemy page is super long because of Harrison. Harrison's like, oh, just put everyone you've ever studied. And I was like, that's going to make me sound like a pompous, but okay, whatever.
No, I mean, I think it's like, this is my education,
Transferable
probably
credits.
Probably the most, I mean, probably the person who had the most impact on me was probably Brian O'Connell, mostly because after taking his workshop, I got to know him really well, and he inspired me to do like some really deep dives that I never would have considered. Going to California twice to both take improv classes with him and perform with people in
You
LA.
mean he tried to poach you?
Oh, he still is. He still is. he told me, he was like, I hate that the pandemic is keeping you away from LA. And I'm like, well, what are you gonna do? But he's like this mad professor that I don't even know why I am like so like, oh, you're my guru, but it just fit, so here we are.
For those who know, Brian Jones kind of does a one-man show. Like it's hard to describe. You have to be there to experience it. But the way he breaks down and deconstructs his character on stage in front of you is just insane, out of this world.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I forgot what it's called, but I mean, it's like 12 scenes, I want to say, and he goes forward 6 and then goes backwards to all the way to it's like a circle that goes all the way back to the beginning. So, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy what the brain can do once it's been improv trained.
For real.
I've been partial to the stand-up workshops over the years because that's always just been like an extra skill set for me that I've always wanted to tune in on, especially for like public speaking and emceeing and hosting stuff. So like Natasha Sam Raimi was a really good workshop for me. William Keane was a really good workshop over the years as well. Tyler, were there any ones that you could think of in particular that were like stand up?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was going to say William Keane as well. I was very impressed by the workshops that he taught over the last few years. One thing that we don't talk about very much at Alchemy is short form, but he's taught a bunch of really great short form workshops as well.
Yeah.
I think it's always good to take those kinds of workshops that you wouldn't think would be good, right? Like I think you were about to get there, and I mean to cut you off, but like I love that thought of like, I do short form all the time. It's like everyone's thing, but it's always good to get a fresh perspective. Like that way you can kind of feel re-energized, try new things, try something that maybe you were thinking about anyway, or maybe just try something that you just want to mimic on stage because you just admired it or something. Just, extend your range.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Take the hard ones,
Yeah, take the ones that you aren't comfortable with, not just the ones that you're excited about, but the ones that you aren't comfortable with. Those really help a lot to push your improv buttons in ways that you didn't expect.
Any words of advice for those who attend improv festivals, who take workshops? So one, I always tell, I think I mentioned this to Walter in the episode with Walter. I gave him shit about years ago, and I was like, why do you take so many workshops and you don't take notes? That kills me. You take like 5, 6, 7, 10 workshops a year and you walk away with no notes. I'm like, why did you pay all that money? He's like, that's a good idea. I'll start doing that. And he did, to his credit, because I gave him a lot of flack for it. But to me, it's like, I try to want to walk away with at least one thing I can walk away from paying this person 30, 70, 150 bucks to teach me for 2 hours. Like, I want something to remember you by. At the same time, I always tell people, like, go in the room and never already either A, feel intimidated, or B, be intimidating. Because A, if you go in intimidated, then you're distracting yourself and your thoughts from wanting to learn. I think like some people, they'll look to the left, they'll look to the right. They're like, oh, this person's been doing improv for so many years more than me, or this person's better than me. Who gives a shit? To me, like my metaphor is, I treat improv learning like I'm at a poker table. Everyone has the same set of cards. Everyone has the same amount of chips. That's all that matters.
You're all in the same class.
Exactly.
Right? There's something here that you want to learn.
Exactly. Yeah. And then don't go intimidating. Like, don't show off, right? Like, if you've been doing improv for years, maybe you've done a few rap workshops and you're taking a rap workshop, don't be an ass. Don't show off, because then you're just being distracting. You're being that kid in class who's like, look at me, look at me. And you're just...
Who invited Macklemore?
I mean, and if you are that strong that you feel the need to show off, then you don't take that workshop at all. Like that workshop could be really useful to someone else who's just curious about, doing freestyle, and which is terrifying to me. But yeah, like it's kind of like there's a point where, and it's something I've learned over the past couple of years, the point where you have to recognize that you're ready for something higher and to like stretch yourself. Because when you start getting comfortable, that's when you're that guy in the class, because you know you're always going to be good in that class because you've taken it like 5 times, So then that you go and you take the JTS Brown workshop and be confused with all of us.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Al. I think there's two sides to that coin. One is you need to know when you're ready to move on, and the other is the like white dude thing where you need to know that you're not the best in the room and not ready to move on.
Yeah.
Right?
Confession, every character I play on stage is a white dude. So I hope everyone's comfortable with that. That's just me broadening my range to play white dudes. That's all I've ever wanted. The other thing I was going to say too, when you take a workshop or just start a class, is don't be afraid to speak. And if you speak, don't go last. Because I'll give you an example. I don't know why this happened. It was a weird situation. It was in a comedy festival in North Carolina a couple years ago. And Susan Messing was the teacher. And there was a person who's an Alchemist alumni, Jason Farr. And he did a monologue in this workshop. And it was a really funny monologue. And then we did improv based on that Armando-ish style, if you have it. And then 30 minutes later, after our scene was done, after our exercise was done, another set of people in that same workshop were going to do the same thing. And so Susan brings them up on stage, said, okay, so we need someone from your group to come up, speak, do a monologue, and then do improv based on that. He was an older gentleman, and he almost verbatim, and then Tyler's holding his mouth like this. He knows where I'm going. Almost said the exact same thing Jason Farr said. It was like a story about like Q-tips and like his mother. And like, I just remember kind of looking left and right going, what is going on? Is this guy
real?
Yeah, it was so weird. And then Susan very like just stopped and was like, what are you doing? And he was trying to sell it as if it was like his story. We're like, no, dude, we just heard this guy over here do that story. Like, he just said that same story. So then, like, she didn't embarrass him, but I mean, she was just straightforward. If you've never taken an improv workshop in Chicago, they are very blunt with you. And I like that style. That's just me. But Susan Messing and Rachel and like Sharna, like they don't have time to bullshit you. They just get straight to the point, like, hey, what are you doing? So I just remember that dude just looked mortified. But also don't steal stories.
Don't steal, yeah.
But
at least it's not in the same class. At least take it to another festival where no one knows Jason,
Yeah.
Yeah. My biggest piece of advice is very similar to yours, Andrew. Is to take the note. But in this case, it means like when you get advice, just do it. You have literally nothing to lose. You're paying for a class that otherwise you would not get, even if you disagree with the person who's teaching it to you, right? Just do it.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario is the absolute worst thing that can happen is you look stupid for 15 seconds and then everybody forgets.
Yeah.
And best case scenario is you'll learn something you didn't know before. Yeah. You realize that maybe I was doing it wrong or there's a better way to do it.
Yeah.
And I've never been more embarrassed for people in a workshop or people who get coached who fight back. I was like, what are you doing here?
It's so uncomfortable to watch. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like there's a fine line. Like there's a little line.
If you were good enough to fight back,
you wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Like I've seen one instance where someone fought based on a morality issue, and that's a whole different story. Like if you have faith and you are uncomfortable with something, you can say that. That is your right.
Oh,
but
sure, yeah.
If you are just like there to argue, to show off, to sound smarter than your teacher, like get out of here. Like that proves nothing. I think Tyler, you just hit it on the head, which kind of also leads me to the next question. So part of what I love about festivals in general, whether it be here, Charlotte, Greensboro, Virginia, New York, we Alchemy has pretty much gone up and down the East Coast, Florida, Atlanta. Some of us have gone to Chicago. I went to LA. Al, you went to LA as well. So like we've kind of gone far, and I think some folks have gone to like Austin, Texas as well. So I love the networking. I love meeting someone new, kind of hitting that note and just hitting that mind meld, and you're just connecting. Maybe a teacher, you're taking good notes, you just kind of bond with them, you stay in touch with them. That to me is fun. You can't do that if you're a show off because like business, you burn that bridge, it's gone. That person's like, that person ain't coming to my place. Nope.
And often you never know who the producers are in the room. It doesn't have to be necessarily me or Tyler, but you could be in front of the people who produced the Charlotte Comedy Experience or the Atlanta Improv Festival. We all know each other. That's a very small network. And so you don't want to be known as that person that's difficult to work with or disruptive in your classes or, disruptive on stage, So yeah, it's just basically just treat people how you want to be treated.
I think the name of the game is also be humble, right? It's improv. When you cut it down to its core, we are adults playing improv. There's no need to have a power struggle. There's no need to be the best in the room because at the end of the day, no one cares, right? We all just want to do this as Harrison Brookie, our co-founder, has said many times. Improv, Alchemy in particular, is our third place. Your first place is your family. Second place is your work, because those things are two most needed things to guide you in life. And your third place should be your happy place, and that is improv, but that should not be your first place because there's other priorities you got to have, because you cannot be happy doing this if you're not happy in those two other things, right? So
I think that's a very specific mindset too of like a comedy theater in a smaller town, right? You can make a comedy theater your second place in LA or New York, but it's much more difficult to do that in Greenville. Right, no one's making money hand over fist here. You need to have other things in your life.
And it's unusual for people who perform as much as we perform, and even like specifically the three of us that perform that much, and also have a day job at the same time. And so we're balancing a lot. So you kind of learn how to strike those balances and those boundaries pretty quickly in a smaller theater like ours.
So how do you also, going back to the festival submissions, so around average, pre-COVID, I'm sure this year's been different from others, but pre-COVID, what is the average amount of submissions compared to the amount of acceptance you guys have?
Oh gosh.
That's a really good question.
That's a good question. I think we had to break it apart.
Yeah.
Like we probably had to break it up into sketch and stand-up and improv. Last year, we probably accepted 50% of the stand-ups that we got.
Yeah, 50%. It's probably maybe even 50% across the board. I mean, there's some improv groups that we haven't accepted, and I think sketch is probably the smallest group that we have, because sketch and stand-up share a weekend, and then the second weekend is all improv. So that kind of tells you how many we have there.
And traveling sketch groups in general is a much smaller number as far as like performers out there than like a stand-up. And because if you're stand-up, you're just by yourself. That's easy to pack your car and go. If you're an improv troupe, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 of you, get in the car, go. Sketch team, same thing, but man, you got to get like people who know their lines. You got to get tech stuff. One of my favorite sketch people to ever come down to New South Comedy was, oh gosh, why did I just blank on their name? I would know it any other day. AJ and his brother from
Unstoppable Failure.
Unstoppable Failure.
Yep.
God, like they are a 2-man wrecking crew who provide their own tech, super fast paced energy, just bonkers sketch ideas. And then AJ came down by himself one year and did a 1-man sketch with his like own sound effects strapped to his like belt, I think, like the way the remote was attached to him to cue the next thing on his laptop. Like it was insane to watch. And it was just like, so much thought into it. Was just incredible to watch. So I'll
Greensboro
say
has put
that
out some good sketch comics.
you really. I remember one year. I think it was maybe year 2, year 3. Pop Roulette came from New York. And I remember you guys had gotten the email, I think 2 weeks before the festival. Hey, sorry, there's only going to be 4 of us because 2 of our performers actually got cast on The Daily Show as writers.
Very cool.
Daily Show and Saturday Night Live. I mean, one of those players was Bowen Yang.
Yep.
Who is, a featured player now, and so it's an interesting thing.
Yeah, I mean, the festivals brought all kinds of, and there's also Otis. He's now on a Daily Show writer. He just won an Emmy. Randall Otis. I just saw that on his Facebook. And then, I mean, we've had stand-up performers like Freddie Ford, who's now in LA in the CBS Conservatory comedy writing thing. Ben Palmer, who was from Atlanta at the time, is now moved to LA doing stuff between like TBS and sketch comedy and stuff like that. I mean, we've had all variety. In fact, Ben Palmer, I remember very specifically, I think it was the first year we did New South. He was a stand-up performer. It was like a Wednesday night or Thursday night. It was like a middle of the week thing. And he was our closing performer that night, because I don't know if that was just arranged that way, if it's just luck of the draw. But, we learn as we move forward, right? And so, like, this was early on in New South where the night wasn't going very smooth. The first 2 comics didn't do super well. And there were people leaving. 4 or 5 people had left through the doorway. One of the comics, I'll say, was very offensive. I mean, to the point where if I were to say the joke here, I probably would throw up in my mouth, because the joke was just tacky and was very homophobic and very, racist. And we did not anticipate
all
that.
3 of those things in the same joke?
All 3 in one 7-minute bit. Because it was in the same joke in the 7-minute bit, yes.
Honestly, props. It takes a lot of work to be that offensive.
Nail it all out in one swoop. Get the trifecta, sweep the leg. And so people were leaving. And I just remember it was Harrison and me. We were looking over to find Ben Palmer. And Ben, just, tall, lanky, thin dude. And he had like a beanie cap on, kind of like rough, patchy hair. And we were like, oh, that's the closer. All right, fuck it, whatever. And Ben crushed it that night with the remaining audience of like 40, 50 people that were still left. I mean, he demolished the room because he has a very unique style. It's very Mitch Hedberg like, but it's his, it's very sarcastic. He also runs the Facebook page, I Hope This Helps, where he creates fake businesses and like trolls people. Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
He's blowing up on TikTok right now.
Yeah, he's got literally thousands of fake Facebook accounts, and that's all he does. Yeah, and he's blowing them on TikTok because he just fires back at people being misogynistic, bigot, whatever. Like, he just has fun with it. And he's a writer for several teams down in LA and just does good. And he was here 6 years ago. He was here performing with us, same room like anyone else, and then made a tour of it, went up and down the East Coast, and eventually made it to LA. So it's great. We can say we've had really good friends come through who we saw early on that you just saw perform and you just knew, like, man, there's something special,
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a testament to what we've built here as well. I mean, before, I think, the big, you have the big 3, you have LA, Chicago, New York, but you also have smaller scenes that are going to be step stools to those other big scenes. So you have like Atlanta, you have Nashville, you have Charlotte and Greensboro. And I think that, Alchemy has made it possible for Greenville to be one of those.
Hashtag, yeah, that step
cities.
stool. Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to take a chance on our festival and come to South Carolina for the first time ever and perform for a sold out crowd every night, and use that to apply to bigger festivals, then I think that's an amazing kind of testament to what we have and our people and how well we welcome them and how organized we are, So
I think you said it on the head there at the end. You and Tyler are very particular. You represent Alchemy so well, or you make it very welcoming for just anyone coming through, right? So as long as you don't do the trifecta of being sexist, misogynist, and whatever else, racist, all this one joke. We are very accepting of all kinds of comedy coming through, and we support
There's a
it, right?
spot
Like,
for you. It might
yeah,
not be the spot that you want, but there's a spot for you.
Yeah, you may not get it again, but we'll try you out.
We'll try.
yeah.
We've put a lot of weird stuff on stage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I won't say any names, but there's been some weird stuff.
Going back to what I said earlier about being humble too, that goes the same thing with performing, right? Like if you apply for a festival and let's say you put Friday anytime, you need to be okay with any time, and that's not just us, but like, me, I applied for Asheville a couple years ago and we got like a Sunday 5:00 time. It wasn't super full, but you know what? It was easy to work with the backstage people for our show because I had to do sound effects for our TV syndicated show syndication, and it was still a good crowd, and we got to network with a lot of people. And I think part of me when I do improv, that's most important is the relationships you build, right?
Yeah.
And there are times like in Charlotte, one year I performed at a 4:00 on Saturday.
Andrew, didn't you get put in a children's show at one point?
It was a children's show. Our opener.
With the puppets.
It was my puppet show, No Strings Attached with Larry and Friends, copyrighted. And our opener was an older group that is taught through EB, Elizabeth Byland. She's not married. She has a new last name, through Queen City Comedy. And she teaches at Virginia, I believe. And on top of that, she had her crew. It was us. And then Hayden, the magician, Haydini, was our closer that night. So we were improv, short form, then puppet improv, and then a magician at the end. Can you imagine if you were rolling in 4:00 in the afternoon downtown Charlotte, had no idea what you were about to watch, and you saw an older group of folks do short form games that were very dirty, by the way, may I add. Dirty old folk improv.
Oh no.
3 grown men playing with puppets, and then a magician, like a legit magician. He's really good and super friendly. But
was it improv magic or was it just magic?
It was magic. It's just magic.
Just like regular magic. Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I want him to come to Greenville. I know Harrison's a very big magic person like me. So, but
shoot.
Well, that's what we have. That's what we have variety on the thing.
Right.
You can check off. Variety is for everything else that we can't classify as strictly improv, sketch, or stand up. So,
And then the next year in Queen City Comedy Experience, we performed, I think, in like the 6:00 show in the Night Theater with like 2 other family-friendly groups. One was a college improv team. One was actually the older folks again. They opened the college improv team from Coalition, like near Richmond out there, because that's EB's team. And then we closed with syndication. But the difference was it was a packed theater this time. It was like maybe 70, 80 people in this like 3-row long gated theater. And the crowd was roaring. It was a really good time. And I remember a bunch of the college improvisers came up to Ben after we got off stage and it was like, dude, you're one funny bastard. I could not let that tagline live Ben down. So, yeah, I love festivals. I mean, just any kind of, again, you just never know who you meet. Like the Queen City one, like I met Preacher Lawson from Mary's Got Talent. That was a good time to talk to him for a brief moment. So, but going back to our comedy festivals, can you explain how this year's New South is going to happen?
Absolutely. So it's all going to be virtual this year. That's going to mean a mix of things. We are looking for some folks who could do it live, essentially from their stage, simulcast to us, or maybe from Zoom. And then we're also looking for some pre-recorded stuff that we could stream ourselves. So whatever you have, if you want to submit it, we'll take a look at it. Absolutely.
Awesome. And another thing too I wanted to talk about, aside of the 2 big things there, is we started also doing the Humongous show. And Tyler, you've been part of booking that for the past couple of years. Do you want to talk about Humongous and what that is?
Absolutely. So Humongous is exactly what it sounds like. It is our biggest show of the year. We do it in February every year. And God willing, we will do it again in February this year. It's we put it on in a separate location than our theater because it's humongous. It's every single show that we do packed into one night. Typically our shows are 20, 30 minutes long, each of those, two of those in each show. But for humongous, it's everyone gets 5-6 minutes, and you pack your show into an hour long show. It's kind of like a sampler platter or a charcuterie board of
Yeah.
everything that we do. You get to pick and see the kinds of things that you like, and then come see our show later on in the month or the year for the ones that you really like.
Kudos to you too. Those have been going on so smoothly for the past couple of years you've been doing them, and I know organizing any kind of event is definitely not easy, and it's definitely more stressful than what you lead on. So again, kudos to both of you for doing all the work you've been doing for all the festival, all the marathons in the past. Any other closing words as far as just advice, either if you're applying, attending any kind of festival, whether it be our marathon, whether it be our festival in the future, any other comedy festivals, any words of advice as a performer, entrant, anything like that?
I mean, I would say the biggest thing biggest piece of advice I give people is have a good video.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be anything like overproduced or professionally produced.
In a
Use the
world
technology.
where improv.
Yeah. You can use the technology you have in your hand. Use an iPhone, get a tripod, and record your shows. The days of having a guy in the back of the theater holding a phone and recording your whole show, you don't have to do that anymore. So, and that can make a huge difference in whether you get accepted or not. There was a team from Columbia, and we were like, I don't know, their video wasn't that great. We took a chance, and it blew the roof off. But
Yeah,
at that point, yeah.
specifically, I said I don't really like them last year, and I had to eat my hat. They were so freaking good, and it was just that their video was filmed on a potato.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, so represent yourself well, and take advantage. I mean, a festival is an investment, both cost wise and talent wise, and you have a chance to perform in front of audiences that are probably bigger than the audiences you have at home. You're going to take workshops at extremely cheap prices.
Mm-hmm.
The same $150 workshop that we have could cost like $600 in LA, and so take advantage of those. So yeah.
Yeah. Any other advice, Tyler?
Yeah, my biggest piece of advice is Al's to shoot a good video. Netflix doesn't have to do it. You just have to submit it. The other thing is shoot your shot, right? You don't know you're not going to make it until you don't know, right? Don't discount yourself because you think that it's not going to happen for you. I don't think it's a great way to live your life, right? The worst thing that can happen is somebody says no, and the best thing that can happen is uncalculable.
Yeah.
And if we or like someone else says no to you, I don't think you should be discouraged to resubmit another year or down the road again, because honestly, a lot of times you guys will probably honestly maybe remember that person's name or a team name and be like, oh, wait, didn't they come last year? And then maybe they get better. Like we want to feel happy with you because not everyone's perfect the first time around. I have so many YouTube videos that are delisted that I do not share with anyone because they're just bad for stand-up. But you have to put it out there for yourself to see, take notes, and learn. Take your licks, and take the rejection, but come back, right?
Yeah, come back. Yeah.
And if you don't get selected, it's not personal either, right? Like sometimes it's just because you didn't fit into what was being built. Not because you were bad or we didn't like you or you looked funny, right? Sometimes it's just there's only X amount of slots and here's the vision for this year.
Or there was another puppet improviser team that just was better, and
there can only be one.
There can only be one. So,
and apply to other festivals in the area.
Yeah.
If you don't get in the New South, we go to the Queen City Festival and see you there, like, oh, I remember that team. I hope that you apply again. So, that goes back to the whole. This is a very small community. Keep going. Keep trying. shoot great video, and you'll be good.
Yeah, because like, what if you see that team that maybe they didn't do a great video, maybe you didn't accept them, but you see them perform live on stage somewhere else, and you're like, holy shit, like they're awesome. We need to get them next year. You know?
We've done that.
Yeah, see?
Yeah. In fact, I think, we've gone up to them like right as they get off stage and like, hey, we have a festival coming up next year. We'd love to have you submit. So I don't know. I think being a festival producer, I don't know if you agree with this, Tyler, but you're a little bit of like a cheerleader. You're an agent sometimes. You're a den mother, and you're like a cat herder. But the biggest thing is like, if you see potential in somebody, give them a shot. You don't know where they could go. I'm not saying that we are the route to SNL.
No. We could be a stop along the way.
Yeah.
That has been for Bo and Yang. Look it up. Just saying.
There
Pop
you
roulette.
go.
There you go. It's been super fun talking with you guys. I appreciate your time tonight. I know there's a lot of things going on in general in the world, but you spent the last 50 minutes hanging out with me talking about improv that we love and talking about just festivals and picking your brain has been great. So hopefully folks out there, Walter, took notes and can learn from how to submit to a festival, how to attend a festival, how to take care of yourself in a workshop, and just have a good time. That's what it's all about in the end of the day. Have a good time. This has been Alchemy Comedy. My name is Andrew Van. You can find more of our podcasts on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, anywhere you're already listening to our voices. Just hit subscribe. Give us a 5-star review. We'd appreciate it so we can keep climbing those ranks and keep Alchemy Comedy relevant during this time that our theater is closed. And check out, again, the Greenville Comedy Marathon. Check out past videos on Alchemy Comedy's YouTube page as well. You'll find clips from stand-up, improv. You'll find stuff also from old New South comedies as well. So check all that out. But this has been Tyler Prescott. This has been Alrinthea Carter and myself, Andrew Van. Thank you guys. Have a great night and make good choices.